deeper I dove into learning about yoga, the more it would come after me. I was always the only brown person in the room. Honey, your voice is so authentic, you need to teach it. I struggled with the weight that held. Like, is it actually any person's life purpose to call out misappropriations of the West?
Yogi, when I hear the word yogi here from very early on, I would hear people in, fitness studios and core classes and be like, okay, yogis. And I'm like, do you know what a yogi is? I saw as a yogi as, a person who renounces themselves from the material world in pursuit of truth. Like they're on the spiritual path away from materialism and consumerism and, capitalism. That's not what yogis are here. Anyone who's just taking a stretching class is called a yogi, and they're not living that way of life. So it's not like a skinny person in Lululemon. It's a spiritual way of life about the deeper truths. That's why I came up with the anti-yogi, liberation, not Lululemon. That subtitle was really important for me. And it also leads people to think, because I think if they don't understand, they're like, anti-yogi, is this against yoga? Is this for, it brings up a lot of questions. And that's the thing, is my show is meant to intrigue. It's meant to make you curious. It's meant to make you question, be uncomfortable, make you laugh, make you cry, but it's deeper. And so this brings in that interest. And that wasn't planned. I think that just started happening automatically. Make me harder, make me lose. The anti-yogi doesn't just touch on one topic. We realized through the show that it's not just about yoga. We see the interconnectedness, that everything is connected. And so if we're not doing activism, we're not really truly doing yoga. There's so many things that we're feeling and exposed to on a daily basis, and so many injustices that have been happening. So if we're really connected, you will feel crazy. You know what I mean? I always feel like the people who say that they're fine are really disconnected from what's going on everywhere, internally with themselves and externally. I always say my show is not just an artistic expression, it's a movement. So it's a call to action. But we must see the injustices everywhere. We can't just say, oh, this is my problem, but these aren't my problems. Or this isn't directly affecting me, so it's not really a problem. And really to call out our own hypocrisy. I have many deities in the piece, but Mata Kali was going to be, to me, them and yoga. It's one.
Are you the Kali Mata? I knew my place was sacred. Namaste. Or should I say, Namslay? Don't say that.
And even the representation of Kali, with the way that they're expressed with their hair open and the tongue out, and the story behind how Mata Kali came to be, and what their purpose was and what their purpose was after. And just expressing with their body, and there's no shame. It's raw, it's vulnerable. Some people in the West have described her as uncouth and savage and uncivilized, but it's the exact opposite of that. And it's just not dealing with any bullshit.
Before we brought it to the Edinburgh Fringe, we did about 15 shows in California, and every show there had been sold out. And in Edinburgh, I had 21 shows in one go in 23 days. And we had some shows were definitely fully sold out, and some shows were just almost sold out for sure. We were experiencing the Fringe Festival and going there for the first time, both at the same time.
Like when we first premiered the show, I had no idea how people were going to respond. I was very nervous and quite frankly, not sure. But I wanted to be unapologetic in my expression, and I didn't want to hold back my expression because of being worried of how people would respond. Like I said, it's meant to shock, awaken, observe. I hoped people would resonate. So there was this idea that, I think people could, but I didn't want to be cocky or overconfident.
She's an incredible performer. I mean, this is my third time watching it. I'm someone who's come back to it multiple times. Especially if you're a South Asian, or if you're someone who's made this country a home, I think there are things that she talks about which are particularly relevant to that group of people. But I think in general also it's something that people can relate to fairly easily, actually.
I did not expect the amount of love and the amount of reception and the way this has grown. The awards for me genuinely were the audience's love. I think that this is resonating with so many people, and it's bringing people together in a way maybe where they're like, oh man, yes, this is what I've been talking about. Hello. And this is why I love that art and activism can come together. Another award for me was my parents. Because, my mom's a more, traditional person, and it was kind of hard for her to accept this acting, artistic line of mine over the years. My dad has been more open with it for many years, but my mom, it's been a struggle for them. I was more nervous about them seeing my show, my mom specifically, than any audience member. And now they're like the top supporters. Like to see like our parents coming around and now being the biggest supporters and really seeing it for what it is and being proud of it. To me, that's the award.
I was always interested by the genre of solo theater. After COVID, when the actor strike happened in Los Angeles in 2023, and I was like, this is my time. But the topic came, I think it was a long time coming from when I was in yoga teacher trainings and my yoga masters, the experiences I've had with microaggressions and growing up and cultural appropriation. So the pieces have, I've expressed in different ways earlier, and bringing it all together happened during that period. But I had a lot of writings and I didn't know what my show was going to be on. And like Shyamala said, I think the show is going to be about yoga. And I was like, I really don't want it to be about yoga. Like, it's such a big responsibility. It's so much pressure to have a solo show that's supposed to be personal and then also have it be about this much bigger topic, and also make the show not a lecture, but then also make it entertaining, but then make it inclusive. Yet I'm also saying my story. So there were a lot of challenges. It was just because no one was talking about it. And I was like, how are these issues not being talked about? And I wanted to do it in an artistic way. So yes, it was incredible to have that response.
We include Indians in these events. I mean, there's half a dozen motels around here owned by the Indians, and we support them 2 times a year.
I feel like I can't just connect with one art. It can't just express in one way.
I feel like it needed to be talked about. I was like, if I'm not going to do it, who's going to do it? Nobody's like, and I've got to do it. I've got to be the one to bring this in this way.
Like, I'm always usually the only brown person. Like, I was the only brown figure skater in all of, my rink. And, I was in the dance styles. I did my BA in dance performance at UC Berkeley and SMC. And I was the only Indian in the entire program. But I'm speaking mainly from my experiences here that, we have so many yoga spaces, but South Asians, Indians are the minority in a practice that comes from our background. And that is so bizarre to me that, how are we the smallest voice in our own practice?
It has so much depth to it. There's not just dancing, there's not just acting, there's comedy, and more importantly, there's education. Like, you really learn while you're being entertained.
I grew up in a Jain background, so I was raised in Jainism and very influenced by the spirituality of Jainism. I was raised at the same time with, I would go to, Swadhyay, Hindu groups and Swadhyay, and learned about Buddhism and Sikhism and Sufism. And, I just was so exposed to so many different backgrounds. And I loved reading Amar Chitra Katha, Diwakar Chitra Katha, those comic books growing up. I was just fascinated by our own culture and history, and even beyond our own culture and history. As I grew older, I found that there was also a lot of dogmatism. Just like any background, there can be a lot of dogma and like changing of the script over time, maybe through a patriarchal lens, a colonial lens, misogynist lens. And so I would also see the hypocrisy that lied in so many backgrounds, including our own. And then I would navigate to see, okay, where does my practice today lie? And so that's why I think yoga is so powerful, is because it is, though it's influenced by so many of these backgrounds, it is also a secular practice, and you can input whatever makes sense to you. As I was in the spaces here, the Western spaces of yoga, that I was really jarred by, initially I was very like, oh, to each their own, let them think what they think. Almost like imposter syndrome a bit. Like, I'm no guru. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm not living this way of life. But I really eventually quickly realized that they knew less than I did. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was like, what is happening and why is it being taught this way? It's almost the antithesis of what yoga is about. And I find that there are issues with yoga, even in the East and the West. It's not like there's like everyone, it's black and white, where yoga's perfect here and it's imperfect here. No, there are issues everywhere. But there's an added layer of colonialism and capitalism that is exponential in the West that has unfortunately even influenced yoga in the East. So back in India, like, I feel people following this trendy Lululemon fitnessy yoga. It's almost like whitewashing your own culture. I want really people to listen. If you're not listening to the voices that are speaking up, of the voices where this practice comes from and beyond, then you are basically erasing, it's cultural erasure. And you're saying that your voices don't matter, even though this is about love and compassion. We're just going to do what we want to do anyway. I mean, it's literally just modern colonialism that is really the opposite of what it's about. So I think that getting people to understand that this is not an attack on, white people or Western people or hippies or wogies. It's really to say that this is a reflection. This is a mirror. I am not doing a character in the show. People cannot believe how much of my show is real. I'm reflecting real people that I've experienced, or like real things that I've studied, or real places I've been to. I need you to understand the pain for us to be able to move forward. People of color in general take so much work to break these concepts down to make them tangible and understood by others. And the work that it takes for me as an artist to say, I'm going to have you feel it. I'm not going to lecture you about it. You are going to witness it and feel it with me. And I'm going to share these experiences with you so that now you understand from an empathetic or sympathetic place, not just an intellectual place.